Let's do it.
All right.
Good.
Cool. Excellent. All right. So welcome to CxXchange Success Hour. I'm so excited to have you all here today. Can you see my screen? Yes? Good, because I've done this before where I start talking and no one can see it. AI and CS strategic applications. That's our topic for today, May 28th. We've got Shawn Stiffler here with me. And let me go ahead and bring up Shawn. And Shawn, say hello so people get to know you a little bit. Shawn and I actually met through another community, CX. So we've seen each other in person, IRL. And anyway, so Shawn, hi.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, we've met in person, so it's nice and comfortable, but nice to be here with everybody. And it's a very exciting topic to talk about some real tactical deployments of AI. So excited to be here.
Maybe what do you do? How did you come upon this topic here?
Okay, so a little background on the company and what we do. So I run operations for the company, everything post-sales. And
you're at Dr. Genius. You're the director
Yes.
of customer success and operations.
Yes, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
So director of success and operations, everything post-sale. And our company's scaling. We offer marketing services and software solutions, and then a blend of those combined in different products. And we serve the SMB segment and really needed to wrap our arms around all the different conversations we have, gain insights, some of the standard features that we really needed to leverage, like pain points and feature requests and those things across thousands of calls. And that led me to this AI journey. And that's the short version.
All right.
Much longer, but yeah, that's why we're here.
Let's do it. Let's do it then. I'm excited. All right. Can everyone see the screen? All right. Let me go ahead then and dig in. So basically what Shawn is using is an AI recorder, right? So, I've got an AI recorder, there's several AI recorders in today. And what's so magical about that, you might ask? And what's exciting is really how it's being used. It's not just, the insights or the sort of CRM sync and some of the things you might expect that a lot of AI recorders have. Now, one of the things Shawn was telling me is that there's call scorecards. Now, call scorecards are usually something that's used in pre-sales, right? Now, at first when he told me about it, I'm like, all right, so you're using a call scorecard? How does that help you, right? You would be amazed, and I was. So that's what we're really going to be digging into a lot about today. But when you take a look at kind of what his original goals were versus kind of everything that the impact that it had on the CS program, I think that you'll realize that there's a lot of things you can do, even when you're using just the simplest type of AI native tools. So that's what we'll dig into. All right.
Sounds great. Yeah, let's dive in. So also a little bit more about my background. I come from sales before operations, and to Jan's point, there's a lot of attention on scorecards and coaching, really, if we want to call it that, for pre-sales. But why not for all the other stages? So we're going to dive into a couple items here. When we deployed this tool, the headline item here, we have reduced new client onboarding time by 44%. So how did we deploy scorecards and how did we achieve that specifically? So we built out a custom scorecard, which is a list of questions that will consume and understand a call and score a yes, no if the questions were met or based upon your parameters. So did something happen or not, or to what degree?
And is this basically this aligned with what you were doing in your onboarding journey, right? So
correct. So, and thank you for bringing that up. What we did is we just distilled down our onboarding playbook and some scripting from our knowledge base into 20-ish, 20, 22 questions that then became a scorecard and for a yes, no. And this is a really good representation. So this is a dashboard overview, and the top row are individual reps, and the first column are the questions. And so as you can see here, some things are green, yellow, red, but your eyes would naturally be drawn to, there's a row that's almost entirely red. And then there's a couple rows that are predominantly red, meaning no, and then that's not positive, it's not good. And so you could then dig into that and one, verify if that's a correct score and dig into the why behind it.
And how many calls might this represent if you're looking at, say, some of these things like, so it's red. Does that mean that was one call where they said no?
No, for each rep, it's probably somewhere between anywhere from 7 to 10 calls or more.
Okay.
There's some leaders in there on that chart, but no, it's multiple calls.
So you're looking at something like here, and this is a real trend then, because if everybody has 7 to 10 calls, there's only one place where on this question that they're successfully getting through, right?
Right. Yeah. And so, and the people on this team, there's a couple of our senior reps that 100% received a no. They weren't able to achieve this thing. And okay, so that's at the high level. So there's a problem and you could dive into that. And so then you could create a filter or a smart category where you look for a specific keyword if you've determined maybe there's a problem or opportunity. And so we did that, and there were specific keywords we looked for. And then we created some rules around that. Once that keyword is identified, we will grab a few sentences before and after that keyword for context, because yes, no is not always reliable if there's really a problem or not. From there, we identified there certainly were some opportunities to improve, and we broke up a lot of workflows and were able to verify some anecdotal thoughts on our processes, and our onboarding time has been reduced by 44%, so multiple weeks.
If I recall the story from when we were initially chatting about it, it was basically what some of these represented was that there were actually some blockers in here, right? And so that's why they were so consistently no's, and that you were able to save so much time on your onboarding because you were able to sort of break apart things that used to be packaged together, so to speak, and have things happen concurrently. And when they were happening concurrently, there was one thing that just took longer and a bunch of other things that could happen at the same time. And so instead of it being like the blocker that prevented everything from happening, it was like this very slow thing that marched along while the other things all got done.
Right. And any project management people in here, the critical path was being delayed over and over routinely, and it caused so many problems. So we were able to break up 2 or 3 requirements into multiple requirements. And the most critical one was actually the easiest to get approval from the client. And there were just some other items attached to that were causing issues that could be worked out over multiple weeks and not delay the delivery whatsoever, or not delay onboarding at all. And that was discovered through this. And it immediately fixed a massive bottleneck.
Yeah. And I wanted to be sure to mention this one first, because that was the one that struck me as like, wow, I did not think of, noticing that sort of thing from trends, So then what is this new product launched and adopted in less than 3 months? How did that happen? Just because you had a call recorder?
Yeah, so this one's bittersweet. It's actually a product we moved away from because we didn't want to be in that space. And here we are with it again. So, but yes, anecdotally, again, just from being on calls, talking to teams, some certain things are being brought up. And so we created a keyword trigger to capture future needs. But what do we do with all these other calls that are analyzed sitting in this platform? And so we used another feature for a keyword tracker, which analyzed 200 calls in a few seconds. And as expected, it was mentioned on 180 of those calls. It was a staggering amount. Wow. And then the trigger prompt for context, because it still depends a little bit on the context. but the grabbing a few sentences before and after this keyword was triggered still confirmed a need. And as of January, we agreed, fine, we'll enter back into this space and build a product around it. And we're going to test it out first. And we already have several paying customers as of this month on the product. So we happen to be familiar with the product, and it's in the advertising space. So we were able to spin it up pretty quick, and we already have clients paying us consistently monthly for the product.
So what made it, was it because you were basically able to quantify? Was that sort of the difference in both in terms of the new product and also the voice of the customer program? Is that what made the difference by having this recorder, or what would you say made it significant?
Yeah, I would say quantify for impact. You have competing priorities too. So we may need to pull some engineering resources and other resources within the company to focus on something. And anecdotally is not a good way to go about that. And so having 180 instances of it, and let's say 120 were vetted to be very real opportunities, that makes the request or recommendation much easier. One other point on this too, this also prevented additional churn. So it was dual benefit there. We had some churn issues that were identified through analyzing calls and through using AI. After peeling back some layers, that this feature or product that we no longer offered was a part of it. It wasn't immediately obvious, but it became obvious, in addition to winning more new business. But specifically having, here's 120 opportunities that are real, here's the data, here's a report, here's a dashboard, that made that much more impactful when we talk about resources and changing priorities.
And because it was connected to your CRM, were you also able to like attach the dollar amounts? So that it wasn't just the percentage of customers, or like, could you also connect it to like your segments and things like that? Or is that like, well, we're looking forward to being able to do that?
I would say our industry, okay, so within the platform, not necessarily, but we could certainly attach it to people who left our company for this product. That number is very easy. It's retention. We've all probably been talking about that for a while now, and churn. And so that number was very easy to quantify because we've already had that data. We were able to map to those customers. As far as new revenue,
or just even just the value of the customers, right? That's it, I guess.
Yeah, so because that is integrated and it connects to our CRM, which is Salesforce, we have all the related product data, current revenue, forecast revenue, all of that. So we could tie a certain amount.
And before you had the AI recorder, did you have much of a voice of the customer program, or is this sort of what enabled it?
No, there's no voice of the customer program. This enabled it. So why this helped too is the scorecards. So again, scorecards in spirit are for coaching. The primary pitch or value proposition is for coaching and identifying things. But if a scorecard, how we started using it, is if the feature is, or the benefit is to identify things, then you really could use it in different ways that make sense for your company. And so for us, we just wanted to aggregate more data when we are uploading calls. And so we have our voice of customer program where we have several questions that we ask, and then it will analyze calls at strategic points within the customer journey. We have many different product types. We're heavily focused on expansion, and there's a lot there that we need to analyze and we can upload. And then let's say we don't get a great score or on NPS or CES, and someone gives us some feedback.
CES is customer effort score. So like the level of perceived effort. It's a survey about that.
Right. And those will be triggered after certain steps in the customer journey or certain instances. And we'll make an outbound. Our CX manager will make a call, and that's recorded. And we can upload that, do bulk uploads, and it'll analyze it and help us better understand areas of opportunity, and then what we should continue to do that they love about us.
So then how do these scorecards work? Are they on like an account level, or on a call level, or do you do keywords on the account level and scorecards on calls? Like, or how are they, how is it set up?
That's a good question. So account level, but then you could also take a more aggregated view of, for this particular scorecard, what's the trending score over time over all of your customers. And
Oh,
so,
okay.
and then you could drill down to the scorecard with certain customers with a CSM. You know, how's that CSM doing?
Okay.
And then it'll give you some feedback too on that.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be about a specific call. The scorecard can be something that is over the course of the relationship with an account.
Right. So we have QBRs too, and it can be the same scorecard scored multiple times. And
Okay.
then that may, if that's trending down, meaning negative, that wouldn't be good. That's a risk, right, for QBR or something else.
So you can do a variety of different types of scorecards. You can have QBR scorecards. Would you ever apply
Right.
more than one scorecard to the same call, or the same,
Yes.
certainly to the same account?
Same customer, maybe not same
Same
call,
customer.
but same account. Absolutely. And
Okay.
that's one of the biggest benefits we have from this deployment.
Got it.
Hey, Jan,
Yeah.
Shawn, Josh had a question in the chat. Josh, you might want to hop off if to clarify. How do you gauge the accuracy of the detection, and how important is that accuracy to you? I think he was talking about the
How do we-
scorecards.
Oh, it's super important that it's accurate. How do we gauge it? At this point in time, it's individual contributors, managers, and myself. I'll drill down into the early usage of scorecards and report back if it's accurate or not. And there's instances where there's some nuance in there where it's maybe not totally accurate, but it gets better over time.
But has it generally been pretty accurate, or do you feel like you need
Oh,
to
yeah.
kind of comb through it?
Yeah, generally very accurate.
And is that pretty critical for you then?
Very critical. Has to be very accurate. Absolutely.
Got it. So we have one more slide to kind of go over, but are there any other questions before we kind of get into, because this is another interesting topic here. Any other thoughts or questions? All right, well, feel free to bring them up. So I thought this was kind of interesting. Oh yeah, we can get into the keywords that are being tracked. Why don't we get into the keywords that are being tracked first, and then we can get into this, because this literally impacted, you know, kind of a culture shift of his team, the way that he was using this. But do you find that some of the keywords, and this gets into, I think, some of the resources we're talking about too, right? Like the resources you put in are really all CS books pretty much, right? Or, you know, something about post sales in terms of the methodologies that shaped the scorecards for you, right?
Right.
And so, and I think if there's anybody, it's going to look small here, but the expansion sale, I know I've mentioned this to you already here. And I know Cynthia's going to be reading it soon, but
it's a must read.
But yeah, so Shawn, tell us about how those types of things then impacted the types of keywords and the ways you set up your questions and things like that. You know, like onboarding matters. What does that got to do with AI?
A lot. So it's very it's custom, of course, to your company and use case. So, but if specifically if we're talking about onboarding or even a success meeting and a success plan, you can have keywords that cover a variety of pain points. That's another really good book too. Really good book. Read it a couple times. So it can be things like, okay, we need to expand our customers and we need to ensure that we're onboarding customers with a certain practice management software, or at least they have some integrations that we can integrate with. Ideally, that happens pre-sale, but we also have other products that we offer that may not need to have a software attachment because we also offer services, marketing as a service. And so because there's so much variety, a keyword that's really important to us is during the onboarding call, depending on what that call is going over. We want to capture what's the software that our clients use at their practice to identify, is this an expansion opportunity or even a churn risk, because we can't expand them and add more value through their customer journey with us. That's one example. Another one could be competitors and a few other keywords. So for instance, the keyword I put for myself is the word concern. Anytime that word is triggered on a call, which it can be a lot at times,
Concern?
that will report the word concern. Just
Oh.
our clients tend to use that word. It's an anecdotal thing, but once you plug in the keyword, you'll figure out quickly if you're right or wrong, and it'll pull some data. Product feature requests, all that. It's fully custom to whatever you're looking for.
Got it. So it can be something to highlight if something's at risk, or it can be, sometimes you'll put in keywords that have to do with your product or features. It just depends. And you can kind of do that on the fly, and you can also have some that are built for regular review. Is that accurate to say?
Yes, out of the box, they have probably your standard pain points or flags and that sort of thing. But yes, you can add in any keyword, and it'll instantly go through your database of calls and let you know where it surfaced. And it's very accurate.
Okay, so let's dig in, because I really found this one to be interesting in terms of the culture shift impact.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the chats. It's funny. I was looking to see, do I have upset as one of them? I'll have to look at that in a second on another monitor.
Right.
Okay, this was a pain point for us and for me specifically as a leader growing with this company for coaching. It was very challenging to give people enough time and to be able to do it as well as a leader. So this is huge. Let me dive into playlist creation. Let's say an individual contributor, a leader, or whoever is on a call, and they handle an objection, a challenge, or something very well. They can tag or that call, and not just the call, the actual timestamp in the transcript where that occurred, as they can add it to some playlist. So you could call it objection handling, which would be more of like a sales thing, but we could roll with that. Or it could be some technical hurdle they were able to provide a solution to that's maybe common in your business. We can add it to a playlist, and over time, as everybody's adding to it, there's a few things that happen. Number one, you enable your teammates to look into a playlist, to listen to maybe a 10-second excerpt to learn how to better approach a situation rather than fishing through a longer call. It creates a culture of just being very open about your calls, and here's how I handled it, and also wanting to ask for help, which that's the latter is usually the hard part. And just good collaboration from teammate to teammate, manager to teammate, teammate to manager. And then you can gamify it too. So Amazon gift cards, and if the success plan scorecard is whoever has the highest success plan scorecard over this quarter, right, gets a gift card. And it's another way to encourage adoption and to follow kind of what you're looking for within these scorecards. But the culture shift is huge. The next bullet point is the big one. So I just pulled data from the last 30 days, and we have 152 meetings that are all scored and aggregated with data over the last 30 days. And it's a blend of onboarding, integration, success plans, QBRs, and some of them are the same client too, going through a few of those, but with different scorecards that are very specific to whatever that conversation is, with various insights, flags, and all that data and information we need as a company within a dashboard. So that's super helpful. It's just not possible with the human. It's not possible as a leader, and some of us have been through that. And this is an example that just happened. This has to do with understanding our customers' tech that we don't deploy. It's their technology, but we integrate with, and we need to help them understand how to use it. You would think perhaps there's some education maybe on their vendor side there, but that's a big problem that rears its head down the road in our relationship with each other. And although maybe it's not our responsibility to understand their technology in a very deep manner, it behooves us, drives value, and it helps the customer. And it was just an insight that was discovered through that. And we've done some training on other third-party software to better understand how to help them gain value from our software.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting that you ended up you know, there were a few key types of technology in your industry that your customers were using. And because you're working with sort of SMB, you're working with doctor practices that they don't usually get into tools, that it was blocking you from helping them achieve things with your product because they weren't able to get the data that you needed. So by learning then, so seeing that that was a blocker, you were able to learn those other products that have nothing to do with you, but help you be better in terms of helping your customers achieve success, right? So you get to know what those products are like. And now you have your CSMs then walking them through, like, here's how to get this data that we need for our product to work, right? And like just the magic in that, in terms of seeing the blocker and being able to do something about it, right? So like it in part, yes, it's AI that can comb through all this data that is our conversations that otherwise, you know, get lost, right? But in terms of then really being able to do something with it, that's where you get to having the foundations, right? The foundations that we're talking about here. When you have the foundations, you have an idea of like what types of things you want to look for and what types of actions that you might want to take and what sort of value you want them to achieve. And you have an idea of your customer journey and those types of things. Then that's how you get to be able to apply it. And then I was just so amazed at how it became a culture shift for your team and how now they talk to each other and they even sort of gamify and they can see like, hey, you're really, you know, like this person here is failing all the time at this question. And they can go over to someone here or here, whoever has time, and say, how are you dealing with that objection? How are you dealing with that more successfully than me? Please help, right? And they can help each other, right? Like that is like the power of it, right? Where like each of the individual contributors can now see that like, hey, someone else is doing better at this. I want to learn from them, right? It's like amazing on that. But okay, so we do have our breakout questions and we can go to those, but are there any questions or comments before we go to the breakout sessions?
Hey, Jan, I saw that Divya asked, maybe you touched on this already, but what tool are you using for creating the scorecards? There's a lot of interest in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much about the tool, but I think what you're using in particular Avoma, right? But I think there's a lot of different tools that might have this. And hey, Josh, speaking of tools.
Hey, yeah, speaking of tools. Hey, Shawn, I think it's great. Awesome work on this. My question is actually outside of the technology, and Jan was kind of talking about this, the behavior aspect of it. So how do you get compliance across your CS team? I hate to use that word, but how do you make sure that your CSMs are asking consistent questions and following that quote unquote playbook for all those different meeting types? Because otherwise it's just, you know, it's going to be very scattered, the results that you get.
Ronald is suggesting bribery.
That's the answer. Yeah. No, good question. So
isn't that what gamification is?
Sorry?
Yeah, you have the gamification, but I also have alerts set for me for certain departments and certain calls that I'll get a direct email with a recap that I can click into, go to the timestamp, and I can verify. Was this actually covered and the AI just missed it because of the nuance of how the question was asked or how something was reviewed, or was this really just missed? And then I could comment on it to adjust the score and those sorts of things. But that's how I'll go in and verify, or our team lead of customer success will go in and verify and tag me on things.
All right.
But,
yeah, what were you going to say?
No. So you're creating the rules, and then you're kind of doing like QA auditing to make sure that folks are following those guidelines effectively.
Right. Yep. So I'll be able to log in, look at a scorecard, click into the question that I'm looking for. Say it's all red across the board. It'll take me to the timestamp of where it was missed, or maybe where it was partially complete, like maybe it's a yellow, and then I could verify briefly if it's
awesome.
Correct or not.
Thanks.
All right.
Good question.
So we have the links over in the chat. The questions are on the breakout notes as well. So be sure to get those open, and you can also download the slides. Let me go ahead and set up the breakout groups. And how's it going? How did your group discussion go? Any sort of highlights? Any aha moments? Hmm?
I hate it when I see the thing pop up and then I click it by mistake, so I left out.
Oh, no, that's pretty much the case for folks, right? Like get that to go away. I almost left. I almost left entirely. I almost hit the red button and like, oh, that would be bad.
I think I would love to ask this group, how do people find all the tools? Because there's so many tools out there. I mean, it's sort of like, how do you find a good streaming show? There's thousands. How do
I
you?
literally just used ChatGPT to ask what AI-powered services are up. So we're going super meta with this, right? It's the it's the exhibit, yo dog, I heard you like search engine, so you can use your search engine to find. Yeah, anyway, we're kind of getting at that point where it's almost the singularity, and you can just, I mean, that's essentially what's happening. That's the debate now, right? Like with AI overall, and they're like, we're running out of stuff to put in there. Can we generate some stuff on our own? But instead of crossing that bridge, yeah, I would say ask it and see what else is out there. The things that are commonly used, and then you can narrow it down towards your particular field.
But I think generally speaking, what you need to do when you're getting any tool is you need to understand, what do you need, right? What are your requirements? What are your goals? Because that was the biggest learning that I found, when I was talking to Shawn, and I'm like, so what books should we put in here? What articles? And it was all foundational books is what he was referencing, right? And that's where I think that when you have strong goals to begin with, and then you're saying, okay, what insights can I get? That's why I thought it was just kind of fun to see what we can learn from it. I personally, scorecards, I was like, that's a pre-sales thing, but
I know. I'm getting ready to build out my first education scorecards, Jen.
yeah. And
Yep.
what are you going to include? What are you thinking about?
We're going to do along the lines of a health score that talks about there's tipping points in customer ed, much like there is in CS, where when you hit the onboarding journey, a successful customer can be defined, right? You can say this is the journey, and when they take these 3 courses through the onboarding, right? We build out a nice training schedule based on Donna's pathways for an onboarding path. And if they do all 5 of those, and they have 3 successful admins in their organization, that's the tipping point. And we can leverage up until that tipping point. We can build a scorecard that says they've made it this far. They've done these things, that we know what the tasks are. And some of those are education tasks, and they can be a subset of the build toward a health score.
Wow. That's great. That's great.
And AI can help us with all of that.
Yeah. What other things are people, has anybody else sort of been looking at these things? Anybody playing around with it? We've got some CS Ops folks in here. Hey, Ronald.
Sorry, not to keep talking, but just to kind of share some of the things that have also kind of been useful. I am terrible with design, and I don't think Priscilla Fletcher is in today's meeting, but when I spoke to her before, she suggested I take a look at gamma.app.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if it made it into the chat before when I put it in there, but right, using AI to kind of shore up some of the kind of details that we might not necessarily like. Sometimes you just need a button to hit, right? Just give me a design and I'll go, right? Also, you're trying to put together an email to a client and you're getting stuck in your own head, and you're just like, let me just GPT this real quick to make it a little bit more concise, and then just fire it, right? So even if it's kind of generalized, kind of everyday stuff, I mean, that's where you get the foot in the door of seeing how these things can provide just that bit of inspiration, which I think everybody is saying, like, that's what AI is meant to really do, right? Is to kind of help you do the thing that you want to do better,
So you
essentially,
don't
not
need to
replace
start with a
you,
blank.
but enable you. Exactly.
Right. Well, and the other thing too is that I would just say as we're finishing up here, I see like a mention of hook.co, and there are things that are looking, and that's an example of when you're looking at product usage data, right? There's also like immersa.ai, and there's also like funnel story, right? So like there's a number of different ones, and like funnel story in particular can look at all of the behavior of your customers, and they're going to start to bring in some of the sentiment. And then they can literally build out like these are, and it's connected to your revenue data. And you say, these are your successful customers, and this is the journey they took. And these are the less successful customers, and this is the journey they took, right? And you can start to see then some of those key moments, right? And what are some turning points, right? And so all of this data has been there all along, and it's really AI that's starting to help your data get matched up across all these different databases, and being able to look at these trends. Now, garbage in, garbage out. If you just have missing data, in your CRM, you need to deal with that first. But frankly, there are AI native tools that can help with that, right? If during the sales and marketing part of the journey, that data isn't put in, or if your own conversations in the post-sales journey, if they aren't getting into the CRM, if you have it connected to the CRM, you can have it populate some fields. Actually, Shawn, you have it do some things like that, right? In your setup?
Yes, it's integrated with Salesforce, and it will push certain information into our account and opportunity, at the account and opportunity level.
And so what kinds of things do you put in there? How does it help make your data better?
So if we, let's say we miss some information in pre-sales, and we have a success plan tab custom built within our opportunity that has 10 fields, let's say, and those same questions or fields are part of our success plan. And as we were having a conversation and CSM with a client, and we learn their software, maybe their financial goals for marketing, and maybe some technical goals, that will map to those fields within our CRM.
Great. Any other thoughts or anything else that folks, aha moments or best practices or anything you want to share from your discussion in your group? I hope we're getting all of these things over into the chat. All of these different tools that are being mentioned and stuff. What is Goblin Tools?
Goblin.tools, that's the tool that changes like the tone, estimates the duration of a task based on your focus, like how much you can focus on it. Also can like determine the tone of a conversation if you're struggling with the tone itself. It's a to-do list. It's a bunch of little tools that are all
I
powered
see.
by AI.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of different things. Opus Pro. Wow, there's all kinds of things out there. Okay, so there are a lot of things popping up, right? And so I can see why you might have gone to ChatGPT, Ronald. Raghunath, is that your name? Sorry.
Yeah, like an aha moment for me when I was trying to introduce was the compliance aspect. I remember me and my team, it's a fault on our side. We went through, reviewed the product without going into the procurement team and making sure like your tech compliance, so your tech stack is in compliant with the product is a huge learning part as well. So that's something to keep in mind. As CS leaders, we take interest, we go and investigate the product and we learn from the product, and then we spent some time on it, and then we realized it's not going to be suitable to be integrated into existing tool sets which we have.
Let
Okay,
me-
so you did like a trial? Sorry, someone was asking? Yeah, Pam?
Yeah, how important is it that you discuss things with legal and make sure about privacy and whatnot before you start using it, especially if a public version? Is that something people consider?
At least in my experience, the organization which I used to work at, it was important for them because they wanted to make sure the tools which we are integrating to needed to pass a SOC 2 compliance was a critical aspect. So they needed to be in alignment with that. So I remember getting rejected for at least one tool.
Yeah. And over in the chat, we'll finish with this. Pam, were you talking about creating your own GPT or?
No, you know, while you're testing things out, you'll use a public one. And so our company's freaked out about you're maybe putting a conversation in a Google, you know, in Gemini and transcribing it. Is that a problem? Before you
is
have,
it a problem?
yeah, for privacy.
Oh,
Our
well, I think it
companies-
depends on if you're including proprietary information or not, right? You know, I think there are a lot of ways you can use it without including proprietary information if you're just using the public GPTs, right? So yeah, that's certainly something to think about because they do train on it. Ronald?
Yeah, I need to say this louder because Jay also kind of mentioned it in the chat, right? Don't put customer data into any of these systems unless you know things have been approved. Just
But is a chat, is a conversation, transcript from a conversation, is that customer data?
So I mean, I think what we're kind of referring to is this is very, it's like knowing who your kids are talking to on the internet, right? Know how, take a moment to kind of see how these models are using your data before you move forward. As Jan said, right, so a lot of these are public, right? So just really like I would definitely say like proof of concept, a lot of different things, right? If so for example, I wanted to see if our proprietary list of industries, if new brands could automatically be sorted into this instead of manually having somebody listen to an ad and say, well, this is a women's clothing, you know, company or whatever. You can proof of concept it by saying, hey, out of these X different industries, what would these brands kind of fit into? And then once you get that, you know, ready to go, then as a company, then you can, you know, purchase whatever plan that you need that will keep all your proprietary stuff safe and not cause a potential issue. So
Thank you.
Yeah. Jay?
I just wanted to add also, like, it depends on the goal of the conversation, because if the goal of the conversation is, I want to know what this customer means when they said XYZ, and you're looking mainly for tone, you don't have to put the customer data itself for that conversation. You're just looking for tone. If you're looking for analyzing the conversation contents, then that's a little different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think too, that anytime you're looking at trends in data, if you know, take out the customer names, you can just do, you know, 1 to 100 or however many, right? Instead of the customer names, so you can match it back at, you know, with your data later. But otherwise, if you don't have the customer name in there and other identifying information, you can still get the trends from it, right? So that's something to do. But no, thank you so much, Shawn. I really appreciate you opening up and sharing, you know, some of the things you've been doing here, and really appreciate just all of the learnings. It's really, yeah, applause here. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. It was fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much, everybody. I know it's late for some folks and dinner time for others. So we'll see you next week. And remember, June 11th will be at 9 a.m. June 11th will be at 9 a.m. And go and sign up on the Luma calendar, subscribe to that, so that, and then opt in for each event that you want to stay up to date on. Okay. And we'll see you all soon. We'll see you in Slack. See you in the meantime. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Success Hour, formerly known as CS Office Hours. We regularly put out new content, so to be the first to know, like this episode, tap that notification bell, hit that subscribe button, and we look forward to seeing you soon.